Hello and welcome to PRSay. This is the award-winning official podcast of the Houston chapter of the Public Relations Society of America. And I'm your host, Veronica V. Sopher. I have the pleasure of bringing to you, our audience, some of our amazing members here in the Houston chapter of PRSA, because we know how important it is in the communication space to be networking and staying connected with our peers. So I have another amazing guest that I'm going to introduce you to in just a minute. But before that, I'm going to take care of some housekeeping. If you are listening on the podcast, make sure you hit subscribe. We don't want you to miss any episodes of PRSay. And if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, drop us some comments and my guests and I will be sure to connect. So with that, I'm going to bring on our guest today, one of our amazing members, Zondra Victor Johnson. Welcome to PRSay.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You bet. I'm so excited about today's conversation. And before we start diving in and telling folks where you are at and some of the work that you're doing, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into communications in the first place.
Okay, so I've pretty much always been in communications in some way, shape, or form. I went to college for communications with a specialization in media production. So I was learning how to make films for TV and things like that. And during that time is when I started working with nonprofits. It started with organizations on campus that I was involved in. And then I got a work study type of internship with Shape Community Center out here in Houston. And I also got to work for PBS. So I was doing different kinds of things back then. And then I just kind of throughout my career, I think I just attracted either small businesses or nonprofits along the way. Either I was led to work with them, or they wanted to work with me because of my track record and the work I have been doing. So
That's awesome. And that's great. And I think you're right. Sometimes your career finds you. You may have a path of where you think it's going. And then all of a sudden, your clientele finds you. And then all of a sudden, you become an expert in that space. And so I love that that you just kind of followed what you felt called to do.
yeah, I feel like that's the easiest way to do it because I did try to venture out into other industries to work in communications, and it was just, I don't know, it's like a lot of work and competitive, and they make you jump through hoops sometimes. It's like it's it's a sharky shark world.
Yeah. It absolutely can be. Yeah. And if that's not where your heart is, where your passion is, then it's probably not where you're supposed to be anyway.
Right, I totally
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. Well, tell us, Zandra, what are you doing right now? Where are you at? And tell us a little bit about the type of work that you do. I always love talking to our nonprofit friends and small business that you support because the challenges are so different, but the rewards are just as great, if not greater.
Right. So currently, I work at a local church in Houston as a communication specialist. It's a fairly, I wouldn't say it's a mega church, but it's like a medium large type of church. And so with that comes like a pretty large administrative staff and support staff. And the way our team is broken up into, which this was pretty new for me, because I'm used to being like a one person department in
Yeah.
spaces.
Yeah.
But I feel like in this church, they're organized so well. So I'm the communication specialist, and then we have a graphic designer, and then we have the director of communications, and then they have um, the media manager and assistant as well. We're technically like communications media department all
Ah.
in one,
Hmm.
but we all have our roles and we are cross trained on certain things so we can help each other out when needed. So it's pretty cool. I'm just like, man, this is what I've been looking for. Because sometimes working in like the nonprofit world, or if you're working with like startups and small businesses, you have to be that one man department, and that can be pretty difficult, even just to like get organized with the work you're trying to doing, much less communicate what needs to be done to like the rest of the team. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's so true. And you end up having to be a know a little bit about everything. And so it all falls on one person. But when you've got a team, you can cross train and support each other. And that really changes the dynamic. Tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that come with supporting a small business, other than being a one-man shop. There's got to be other things you have to take into consideration.
right. So let's see. There are okay. So being a small business is a big challenge. In general, just like trying to keep your business afloat and all of that. So I feel like, in the perspective of an owner, it's trying to figure out how to a trust people and b where to allocate your money to
Oh,
where
yeah.
it matters. Um, because I've worked with businesses that have spent money on things that were just like, to me it was like, okay, this isn't clearly going to be like beneficial, at least in the long run. Or if I would, I remember one case where I was trying to communicate, my marketing ideas for the business, and they were like, oh, okay, yeah, we could try that. And then whenever I would start to form a plan, like plans would change. And then, eventually it would just go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then later on down the line, they go and spend like way more money on this consultant to do the same thing that I was supposed to do. And then I was just like, we literally talked about this. Like, I felt lost. I was like, and this one was an e-commerce business. So
Yeah.
I was just like, I don't understand you. It was,
Yeah. I mean, that
I was right
happens.
here. You could spend way less money.
Yep.
So I was
Yep.
doing like the newsletter. I was doing SEO for the website. I was just like, this is all you needed right here. What I was trying to give you, and then you go out here, and that can be pretty difficult when you hire outside
Right.
consulting for marketing. The prices can be pretty steep, and it's like if you're a startup, small business, nonprofit, like you don't always have like a big budget. Um, so it's like you have less, I guess, financial room to like less room to waste your finances.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. And that's true because especially in the nonprofit space, there's accountability to your donors and the reporting. And in a small business, the owner is probably trying to draw a salary from that business too. So
Yeah,
funds are a little more limited than when you might work in oil and gas or technology or healthcare, maybe.
exactly. Yep.
Mhm. That's so true. What are some of the benefits, would you say, though, of working in the nonprofit? Because there's a whole group of members, in particular in our chapter, who do have very successful careers in nonprofits, and I am always fascinated by their responses to that question.
I feel like I guess the most rewarding, is the end goal, seeing, because necessarily you don't always have like clients, but your the people you serve, it's a way to serve people, and you can see your impact on their lives. You can see how working together on this team or on this project, um, directly benefits the people who the organization is trying to serve. The mission, you can see it coming to life. I feel like that's really rewarding. I feel like also with working, um, in that space, you get to meet people, like, and form closer relationships with them,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially with like executive staff. Um, from executive staff all the way down to like interns and volunteers. I feel like you have a lot more, collaborative moments, to where you'll all be like pulling from each other, trying to accomplish your goal. And I feel like that's the beautiful thing about working with a smaller organization, whether it be a large organization, but still nonprofit, I feel like you still can get that kind of relationship with the staff too. So I feel like those are
Yeah,
the.
those are great. Those are great benefits. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Zondra, tell us how people can connect with you, because I know we have a lot of members in the nonprofit space, and I always want people to, if they can't meet in person, at least connect virtually, so that you have a circle of peers that you can connect with, ask questions about, share resources with. And I know we've got members who are right in your space who would love to connect. How can they reach you?
Right. I would say go ahead and send me a DM on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Yep.
Uh, it's, I mean, it's my whole name on there, but you can look up Zondra V and my LinkedIn will pop up. It's pretty thorough. You can see the different projects I've worked on. I'd say it's a pretty good CV if you're trying to get to know me.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. That's why LinkedIn is my favorite platform for
Yeah.
business connections.
It
Yeah.
has a lot of like old projects I've worked on, whether it be like freelance consulting or like different um types of businesses I've worked with. Um yeah, I answer my DMs in
There
there.
you go. That's
Pretty
awesome.
active there.
That's awesome. Well, and we'll make sure to put the link inside the show notes. So if anyone wants to connect, they can easily do that. Zondra, it was so great to have you on the podcast and to learn a little bit more. And I hope that you get a chance to meet more of our members in person, and that they get a chance to meet you.
I know. I hope so too.
Yay. Awesome. Well, you have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. You too.
You bet. All right, guys, that was Zondra. Make sure you connect. Her information will be in the show notes. So she wants you to send her a DM on LinkedIn. That's the best way to get to know her. And let's make sure that our chapter is really supporting one another when we can. So make sure you reach out and connect. So with that, I'm going to wrap up this episode by reminding you to hit subscribe if you are listening on the podcast. And if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, drop us some comments, and Zondra and I will be sure to connect with you. We will catch you next time.